Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Glow Up Girl podcast. I am your host, Kyra Mitchell Lewis. I hope everyone is doing well and taking good care of your mental and physical health. Today's episode is really near and dear to the reason I started Glow Up Girl. Our main purpose is to help women achieve balance and live purpose-filled lives. Before 2020, many of us were overwhelmed with the hustle and bustle of everyday life. And now, with everything happening in 2020, it's given us an opportunity to slow down and take a step back to reflect and to do some internal work to figure out what we're truly passionate about and how we can use those things that really drive us to create purpose in our lives. When you have a sense of purpose at work, you feel passionate, innovative, and committed. And when your professional purpose is in balance with your personal purpose, you are truly living in your calling and in your true passion. Today's Glow Getter of the Week is doing just that. Dr. Christie Black-Murrell is a licensed therapist who is an elementary school counselor and a published author. She joins us today to talk about when passion and purpose create impact and how embracing her calling has helped her to make an impact in her community. We'll be right back with her story. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I am so thrilled to have our Glow Getter of the Week, Christie Black-Murrell, joining us today. So welcome, Christy, to the Glow Up Girl podcast.
Hello, glad to be here.
Good. Thank you. So how is your Monday going?
It is a Monday. Maniac Monday. No, it was actually a pretty good day. It's been pretty smooth. Lots of got a lot of things done in the yard. Got a little work done in the house. So it's been a pretty good summertime Monday.
Yes, along with the summertime rain.
Yes.
I know, as we were just about to get started, I was just like, okay, Lord, just let the light stay on, keep the power going for this hour so we don't, so everything goes good, because it's definitely the summer rain.
Exactly.
Well, all right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Let's start off, with talking about how you've managed to find the magic that we all are looking for. So you've managed to find the magic of having a job that doesn't feel like a job and truly working in your calling, in your purpose, and your passion. So let's talk about your life as a school counselor.
Okay, life as a school counselor. Well, I guess really to start talking about being a school counselor, I have to go back a little bit further with just being a counselor in general, because I worked initially with mental health counseling, pretty much in every facet that you can work with children and families, and a little bit of marriage and family, a little marriage couple counseling as well, but pretty much mostly children and families. And doing that in group homes, residential, intensive family. But my goal has always been to impact kind of our next generation. And so that meant I wanted to do it in every one of their life domains. So I had done it in residential, I had done it in their homes, I had done it in the community, and the last avenue that God allowed me to work in was in a school setting. And just getting a chance to see how mental health is so very real in the lives of our young people. Being a school counselor gives me the opportunity to be that prevention measure for kids, so they're not having to do some of the therapy that I was doing outside, and not having to go to some of the places that I worked in. If we're able to provide them the skills to help them manage their emotions a little bit better at an earlier age. And And so that's been the joy of this job. This job slash my passion slash my purpose has been amazing because it gives me that chance. I've worked with high schoolers, I've worked with middle schoolers, but I love the little people, as I call them, elementary age. I love the opportunity to sow seeds, and that's exactly what elementary counseling is. It's your chance to sow seeds into the lives of our next generation. So, and just giving them those core things that they need: coping skills, social skills, the core things. I'm just grateful for that opportunity. And like I said, it doesn't feel like work. And the biggest part is showing them that kindness is easy. Let's do it. Kindness is easy. And all the things you can be in the world, be kind.
Yes, and that is so important, especially during, these times today. And I like what you said about being able to sow seeds with young children, because there are adults that don't know how to deal or cope with their feelings.
Right.
And I
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's just so important to be able to do that. So I know, when we talked earlier, I just loved how, you talked about kindness and how you really lead with that in your daily life. And
Right.
so, can you talk about some of the things or activities that you have implemented with your kids at school?
Okay, so like I mentioned before, I just believe that like I said, there's so many things in the world that you can be. Choose to be kind. So I kind of walk that out. I walk that out in my everyday life. I walk that out when I talk to the children as far as how to respond to things when people are, mean to you or things don't go your way. It doesn't hurt to respond with kindness. So we've initiated what we call random acts of kindness. It's a national initiative, actually. It's the Random Act of Kindness Challenge that's done nationally. We choose to implement it during the month of February, which is the love month as well. So we implemented that during that time, just kind to we do random acts for our community, like maybe giving donations to a local shelter. We do kindness acts to our school, like a campus-wide cleanup. We do kindness acts to each other, just simply like getting caught giving kind compliments to people all the time. And what we do is you get a reward for these behaviors, because just like you get consequences for your negative behaviors. If we want to see people do the right things or make the right choices, why not reward that behavior as well? So that's kind of I kind of take a flip mode to discipline. I stand on the side of positivity. When you make the right choices, I acknowledge that, and I try to almost ignore the negative things and hope that they would extinguish. So yeah, we do random act of kindness during the month. We do a whole week of kindness where it's all kind of activity. We get the community involved. At one of my schools, we had the mayor came in and did declared a kindness day at our school. Kindness parades. We just trying to throw that kindness around like confetti. So that's kind of that's what we've been doing, and I've done it at every school that I've been in. That's kind of my thing.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And so, as far as, we also talked about empathy, and you had a really cool activity that you are, working through with your kids to help them. I know you said it's not a teachable skill per se.
Right. It's empathy is somewhat, it should be an innate thing, but it's not. It's kind of nurtured out of you. So we do several activities, but one of the ones is kind of like putting your shoes on the other foot. Who always say, because empathy, kids have a hard time finding the line between being empathetic and being sympathetic. And that is two very different things. Sympathy is like, I'm sorry that it happened to you. Empathetic is, I feel you. I'm standing in your position and I can feel what you're feeling. And so that's why we do the activity of putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and we literally do it. It's not someone actually real shoes, but I bring shoes, and we kind of put ourselves in the other person's shoes. With when someone says negative things to them, how do you think they're feeling in that moment? So for one, it helps them to connect to those feelings of another person, which is really big when you're trying to understand what empathy really means. You have to be able to understand what someone else is feeling. That's a core of basic social skills, is identifying your own feelings and being able to judge the feelings of others. So we do activities where I may change my face and you have to tell me how I'm feeling. I may change my body positions, or I may use the students and they change their position and people have to guess. It's kind of like guess my feelings. So can you look at someone and really tell how they're feeling? For one, that helps with awareness. And sometimes awareness will be the very thing that will stop people from behaving a certain way. I didn't know it bothered them that much, so they'll keep doing it. But when you realize that it's really hurting someone, do you really want to be the cause of someone's hurting that much? So those are just a few of the activities that I implement in my schools.
No, I think that's actually great. And it would be amazing to have a course like that for adults, because I think a lot of adults could have
I
used that.
definitely think a lot of adults could use it. I think they bypass a lot of this. And when I meet some of my parents, I realize that they bypass this, and because they just don't get it. They don't even get their own kids. And I can see them, and they're just fussing, and they're not even looking at how they're tearing their child down. Because there's so much power in the words that we say, specifically to our children.
Yes.
We have to be, kind with our words, even as parents. And I know it's frustrating and it's overwhelming, especially with COVID-19, and you've been in the home with them all day long. You've been trying to be their teacher, their parent, their principal, their counselor, their everything. And so it's overwhelming, yes, but you have to try to catch yourself. And even if you do make a mistake and you do talk out of turn, even as adults, we can still apologize to children. And that shows them that it's okay to apologize to someone else when you do something that you really didn't mean.
Right. Yes. I think, yes, that's so important.
That's a really good example for them.
Because I have heard, a lot of parents who have been in the house with their kids for a while that, are sort of feeling a certain way right now. And I think.
Absolutely. And I understand wholeheartedly, because I am home with my sweet loves, but woof.
What are there any tips that you could give, I guess, when a parent sort of gets to that breaking point? What would you suggest maybe they take a step back and do when they see themselves getting
just a time out? It's okay to walk away. You don't have to respond in the moment. And I know they're mommy. Mommy needs a minute. Give me a minute. And you can go behind your closed door, take some deep breaths, and then come back out and address the problem. Because what you don't want is to respond in the heat of your feelings. Because sometimes in the heat of our feelings, it doesn't matter who we're talking to, whether it's a child or another adult. Because of that high intensity of our emotions, we respond in a way that we may not be proud of ourselves after we say it. So, just take a moment. It's okay as a parent to take a moment to breathe. If you do have a family member that can watch your kids for an hour, you need that hour to kind of recoup, or put them to bed a little early, something. But you have to remember to do some self-care, or you won't be any good to anyone else. And that's even with kids. So, a good book late at night, glass of wine, a phone conversation with a friend that's not about the cartoons you have to watch all day. There are little things that you can do to just take care of you, to make you a better you. Because the truth, I say, the truth of the matter is you are no good to anyone else unless you take care of yourself first.
Yes. No, I think those are excellent tips. And I know that the parents out there in the audience will appreciate and thank you for those.
Oh, yeah. And a schedule. It doesn't hurt. Even I know it's summertime and sometimes we don't have as many schedules in the summer, but a very loose schedule of still kind of having maybe 30 minutes to an hour of them reading, writing, drawing, something. You can even, there's so many activities online. You can turn on YouTube and put in, I don't know, whatever grade your kid is. You can put in blending sounds, and they will teach a 20-minute lesson that you don't have to do anything. The kid will sit there, they watch it, they write on their own. But just start your day out that way. Go for a walk if y'all can together, or you go outside and sit on your patio and let them run around while you just sit for a minute. Little things like that, just kind of put them in your day. And kids love structure. They say they don't, but they do, because it gives them some consistency.
Okay. No, I think those are great. Thank you for sharing that. What would you say has been, I know you have a lot of fulfilling moments as a counselor and the impact that you're able to make in children's lives, but can you share a few of those with us?
Oh man, you're right there. The list is endless sometimes, because I just like to see growth, which is probably why I like elementary so much, because you do get to see the growth in kids more so than adults, because a lot of times they're kind of fixed in where they are. But I had a specific little one, and I don't know if we talked about him before or not, but he was in the first grade at the time, and his father was incarcerated, and it was him, and he has 4 or 5 siblings, but he's the oldest of the siblings. Now, granted, I remember I just told you he was in first grade, but the oldest of the siblings.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And so, it's 5 of them. He was the oldest. He felt like he was supposed to now be the man of the house. He would say things like, I saved my 50 cents so I can give my mom so she can help pay for things. And I would remind him that you're still a child, and that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to come to school, learn as much as you can, listen to these teachers, because they considered him to have anger issues, but given the fact that dad's incarcerated, he's put in a position to be Mr. Man of the house. He had a whole lot on his plate. Those are the things that we don't often ask kids what's going on at home. We just assume that they're angry and we just leave them there. But we work together very closely. Small group time, individual time. I talked to his mom a couple times. We wrote a letter to his dad. We've done different things, but as the years progressed, which by the next year, his grades were coming up, no more discipline problems. And he wrote me a letter when I got ready to leave that school about, thank you for helping me to not be so angry. And that it's those moments like that, when they make the connection to the work that you're doing with them and the changes that they're having and seeing in their own lives. I mean, talking about a 360. Now, Dad was still incarcerated. We even had to have the discussion that Dad was not coming home, because his mom kept telling him, "Oh, he's gonna be home." But we looked it up, and I believe in that. I believe in giving kids real information, because they have to begin to process. And if we keep not telling them the truth, then the bubble when it's bust, it can create so many other issues other than if you just be honest.
Right.
And because of the crimes that his dad committed, he wasn't getting out, ever. So we talked about that and what that meant. And that still meant you could still visit him. That didn't not make him your dad anymore. We went through that whole process, and he cried, and he didn't understand. And it is a hard thing to understand. But in the end, he was better with it. So growth is always my biggest reward.
Yes, and what a huge burden for a child to feel like they must carry.
Right. Exactly. Yes. In first grade.
Ooh, that's
so he's all of 6. So he's all of 6 years old, thinking he's supposed to carry the weight of the household, be the man, as he said.
Oh, bless his heart.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely hope and wish nothing but the best for that little man and his family.
Yeah, we still talk now. He's doing great.
Oh, that's good. Very good. So, with everything going on in the world right now, from COVID to the fight for, racial equality, what conversations as a mom are you having with your littles right now?
The biggest one is kind of just encouraging them to, well, two part as it relates to the social and racial inequality. I'm addressing that by, because like I told you, I never like to veer on the side of the negative piece. I like to try to stay on the side of the positive piece. So what I'm doing is trying to help them highlight how amazing they are as a unique individual. And because we're all different and everyone's not as kind as you are, I want you to own your own beauty, your own intelligence, your own kind heart. And those are some of the things I tell them: their own resilience, your own strength. I want them to own that, because the world is not set up for them to always succeed. But something no one can take from you is how you feel about you, and two, what you put in your head. With all the knowledge you put in your head, no one can ever take it away. So those are the kind of things that I'm trying to do with them. I still remind them that even with our community helpers, even though they're right now they're seeing community helpers not being such great helpers, that's not every community helper. And just like there are tons and tons of African Americans, that it doesn't mean this is going to happen to you just because you're Black. It doesn't mean that because there's so many negative cops, it doesn't mean that you're going to run into one that's like that, because there are some that are still helpful. So trying to help them make the distinction between the two, just kind of using books, and just talking, being a listening ear. Now, when it comes to COVID, I'm doing more of helping them with anxiety and fear and worry. That just because somebody coughs on you doesn't mean you're gonna have COVID and die. So
Right.
because they're making it so big and so extreme, and it is, and people are dying. So I know that it is a very serious issue, which is why we wear our masks and why we remind them to wash their hands and all these kinds of things. But I don't want them to walk around in fear either, because God did not give you the spirit of fear, but of love and of power and of a sound mind. So I try to remind them of those things. And we practice deep breathing. We practice yoga and calming things. We paint rocks and do things that calm us so that they are able to work through those kind of anxious moments.
Yes. No, I think that is very good because even for, I think, a lot of adults
Mm-hmm.
are somewhat dealing with that. I'm someone who has been in the house pretty much the whole entire time since we got home, and I've probably been out like 3 times. But
Wow.
they're just for short moments, and
Mm-hmm.
even things like going, to the grocery store, like I'm doing Instacart, or But I was reading something the other week about a lot of people were having very strange dreams about around COVID, and I
Mm.
for a while like probably for like 2 weeks, I would always have this dream where I would go out somewhere and I would have a mask on. And then all of a sudden I didn't have a mask on. And
Wow. Okay.
yeah, and I was like, oh my God. And I didn't, think about like, oh wow, like maybe I was living in, somewhat a fear of like getting out and having to venture back into, life as you or used to. Obviously it's not going to be like it was ever,
Oh
but
no, new
what
norm.
right. So what would you say to those adults like myself who have been sort of sheltering in place, that, to even just get back to take small steps to doing
Right.
something?
And that's exactly what I would say. It would be small steps. And things like moving from, you may do Instacart once a month, but maybe twice out of the month, you actually go to the store for small items where you're more so in and out quickly, to where you can extend the time a little longer. Maybe the first time you go, I'm just going and I'm going to pick up milk. That's something I know the house needs all the time. We're just going to pick up milk and we're going to go in and go out. So you can kind of build up your tolerance, I would say, or your or lessen your anxiety, but in smaller increments.
Yes. Yeah,
And
because I
then and then process it. How did you feel when you went out? You know, judge your anxiety and the reality of what you just experienced. Like, one side of my paper would be my anxieties. Like, I thought that people were going to all not have a mask and I was going to be the only one wearing a mask and I would feel so unprotected. Well, the reality is maybe 50% of the people had a mask just like me versus nobody but me. You see what I'm saying? So I would kind of judge my anxiety versus my reality after I would have my short experiences outside the home to kind of just help prepare myself. If you have close family that's nearby, like the only place my family, we normally go, me and the girls, are to our mom's house because we know they're not going nowhere and neither are we. So it's kind of a good, safe place to go. But we are getting out the house.
No, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I had to, probably like 2 weeks ago, I had to go into my work office because my computer locked up at 3:45 on a Thursday evening.
Oh, wow.
And the only way I could get it back up was to go into the office and actually dock it at my desk. And yes, there was so much anxiety about going in. I was like, oh my God, I gotta go in this office. I'm like pretty sure it's not clean. But even though, that was just my fears telling me that. And I was like, look, girl, put your big girl
panties on and go. And then
and I went in there and I got out fast, but I was at the end of the day like glad, even though it was an inconvenience, but I think that God knew I needed to like do that.
Face your fear a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit of facing your fear. And then you could have went in prepared. Like, okay, they made us go back into work and I was horrified, terrified. And then I went in and I was true. I was the only person in the building pretty much with a mask. But that was fine. I went in my office. Don't bother me. I'm going to close my door. I sanitized my whole office, sprayed everything down, and I sat down and I worked because it was just my space. Nobody's in here but me. I didn't let anybody in. When I wanted to see somebody, I went out with my mask on, went and talked to them, came back into my own space. Because I knew I had to be in the building. It was what they were requiring us to do. But that don't mean I have to be, around people who are not being as safe as I am. So, there are little precautions you can take, and that's not extreme. That's just being cautious, which is what we should be in this season.
Right. Yep.
So don't let yourself get so worried about the anxiety. You should be somewhat anxious. It is a very it's a very serious thing we're dealing with right now, and we should take it that way. And even if someone else chooses not to take it that way, doesn't mean something's wrong with you for, taking it as something serious, because it is.
Yeah, for sure. No, well, those are great. I appreciate you sort of talking through even from a child to what adults can do to better deal with some of the anxiety that we feel or don't know that we have, at the time. So we're going to switch gears and go into your passion, which is writing. You are a published author and you have released 6 books.
Yes.
So let's talk about, when did you realize that you had this love for writing?
Let's see. When do kids hold pencils steady? Just kidding. No, pretty much though. Like from a young kid, my mom would say that I would tell stories to her, and then as I got a little older, poetry was more of my passion. Because it was a place to let me spill my feelings. And there was no judgment because it was just me and my paper and my pen. So no one could judge me. It was just me. So, and I could be I could lay it all out on the line. And so poetry kind of became my place, my safe place. And I had journals galore all through my youth. And then one day a teacher tricked me and turned in one of my poems to a contest, and I won. That was the only way I was able to let it outside of me. The only person who had ever heard anything that I had written was my mom. Because the fear of someone hearing my heart and rejecting it was very hard to manage. Because what I put on that paper was the unadulterated me. And if you didn't like what I wrote, then you didn't like me, is how I put the connection between the two. At least as a younger person. Now I'm far from that now, because reviewers can be harsh. So you have to get some thick skin. But at that, it was really hard for me to balance that. You just didn't like, maybe you didn't like my style of writing or whatever, but it didn't connect you to not liking me. Same concept I teach kids too, that just because your behaviors may not be the best, that doesn't mean you're bad because you have bad quote unquote behaviors. You're not your behaviors, you're not your actions, you're you making poor choices. Not the same thing. So helping them to make that distinction is the same thing that I had to do for myself as a writer, and any writer out there. Get out of the fact of the fear of, if someone doesn't like what you wrote, then maybe I just need to throw this away. Why did I think I could write? Why did I jump into this field? Because if it is what God has given you to do, which I know for sure that this is what He's called me to do, which is speak life. Now that's been in counseling, in mental health, that's been counseling in school, that's been writing, that's spoken word poetry. He told me to speak life, and that's what I do. I do it in the written form, and I do it out of my mouth. So if you have that unction in you, any writer out there, if you know in your heart of hearts, this is who you are, this is what you should be doing. If you get a criticism, if you get a review from someone and it's negative, oh well for them. They didn't get what you poured out there, but I can guarantee you it hit someone just where they needed it. Right. Never doubt your gift. It was given to you for a reason. Use it.
Yes, I agree with that.
I got veered off that because I get real amped up about that, because sometimes people have a hard time with that when someone tells them something negative about the gift that they have. So writing, did all of that, and then my first book was a poetry book, and it was literally a collection of random journals. I've just pulled all these journals together that I've been writing all my life, laid them on the bed, and I wrote random thoughts of a perplexed, relaxed soul. And just like the title contradicts itself, the book did the same thing. Each chapter was a different feeling, and the feelings contradicted the next: love, hate, joy, pain. And it went through the book just like that. But I literally pulled poems out of all different journals. And I didn't have to write anything new. I had more than enough to go in that one book, that first one. And then I, put it together, and I self-published. No, I did not self-publish. I called myself. Oh, that's a whole nother segment we're going to do one day about the difference between traditional publishing, vanity publishing, print on demand, and self-publishing. They're all very different. I did not know this, being a newbie in the field, and so I signed on to, and was so excited to sign on to a company, which I never would have done, but I did, and they took my little royalty check of $1. And I got started, and I wrote, and they sold my book. It went up from initially starting out at $8, and it went to $25 for my poetry book.
Wow.
I am not Dr. Maya Angelou. Therefore, I don't think nobody was looking to buy my book for $25. But they had the rights to it because I had signed a contract. Yes. So they changed the cover, so that's the catch of using someone else, which is why I'm now self-published. But anywho, long story there. What was that? So from Random Thoughts, I went to Soul Cries, which was the second book of poetry, and my first audio book. Got a chance to get in the studio, do what I love, spoken word. And then, so it came out that way. Because I was one time I went and I spoke at a, I want to say it's not like a homeless shelter, but it was a community event. But a lot of people there were homeless or disadvantaged people. It was a group of them. It was a meeting they had at a public, not a public park, but a public facility, like Columbus. It was our association for homeless population. And I spoke there, and it was a lady that was blind in the meeting, and she said, "Are any of your books audio?" So I really love what you're saying, but I can't read it. And that was the reason why I did my first audiobook, was because of that lady. Didn't know her name, didn't know anything, but she was what prompted me to move towards an audiobook. And so then fiction, I ventured out into a little fiction, did a wonderful crazy tale of 3 girls in their life trying to figure out who they are and where they're going. I don't know if they ever really figured all of it out, but some of them figured out something. And that's called Sometimes Love Comes Around. And then I did a Christmas fiction right before my second baby was born. That was like the goal. I got to get it here before she's born. An unexpected Christmas love story. And now I have ventured into the world of children's books. And I am super excited because I think I found my vein. Not saying I won't write anything else, but I'm really, as a mom, as a counselor, I'm loving this area. I'm loving the little people. So yeah, that's a little bit about my writing.
Yeah, so let's talk about Do You Know?
Oh yes, Do You Know, which is my first children's book, is it is from the perspective of the power of positive affirmations. Like I said before, parents don't realize how much power they have in their mouths when they speak to their children. What you say to them, how you encourage them or choose not to, all of that plays a role in who they are and what they become and how they can handle the wows of the world. Like, if you can build up a strong, positive self-concept in your kids, they will battle bullying better because it won't hit them as hard because you've already reminded them of how amazing they are, no matter what little Billy says at school. And if they can actually take what you're saying to them and own it as their own, then oh my, you got a force to be reckoned with. So that's what the book is all about. It's each page is a different positive affirmation, and then at the end I do some kind of interactive play. So the parents are encouraged to write personal affirmations to their kids, and then the children are asked to do their own self affirmations at the end. So it kind of gives them an opportunity to, not, like I said, to hear the positive affirmations from a stranger as you read through the book. Then you hear it from your parents personally, and now you own it. You take it, you make it your own, and you move from, because the book goes in, you are kind or something like that. That's one of the affirmations. You have a kind heart. Well, at the end, by that time, you should be saying, my heart is kind. You own it. You taking ownership to that. So that's what it's all about. It's all about trying to foster that sense of self-affirmation.
And that is definitely so important right now. I mean,
absolutely.
And I like what you say. You are planting a seed with our next generation, with generations for the future, because that's what's going to be needed. Is that kids? It's kindness, it's empathy, and it's also believing. Affirmation for yourself. I mean,
believing in you.
When you said that, I thought about, obviously, I think most adult people have taken the love languages test and know, so like definitely like words affirmation is like my number one love language. And I was actually in a therapy appointment over the weekend, and that was one of the things that my therapist and I were talking about. And it actually was speaking to like, how do you speak to yourself, about your love languages. And I think a lot of times people don't think about, they just think about, how do I need other people to service, or how do I need other people to pour that into me? But it was really interesting because she said, well, how do you do that? And I said, oh, well, like I do these things the night before. I say like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to lead with kindness, or I'm going to choose joy tomorrow. So I like set the stage for my next day and I pray about it.
Really
and I'm
awesome.
And like in the morning, I'm like, okay, God, like I said, I was going to choose kindness. So it doesn't matter what somebody comes and says, I'm going to remember that and I'm going to honor that. So, I started to think about, I'm like, oh, I'm doing that. I'm affirming and giving those things to myself to help me, to live up to what I say I want to be and
Absolutely.
how I want to live, and not just saying, it's Monday and this person's driving me, I
Banana
refer to
Annas.
it. Yeah, I refer to it a lot of times as like people being in a clown car. I'm like, there's the clown patrol. So
Wow.
yes, that's what I'm saying. It's so awesome, that you're able to do that and give that to children at such a young age, and also make it interactive for their parents to be able to pour into them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, and like I say, it's a good resource for not just parents. It's a good resource for counselors if you're doing family sessions, because one of the biggest pieces of dysfunction in families is it always comes back to communication.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy, positive communication. When that falls apart, when they get teenagers and they shut down, they don't say anything to you. You've got to keep those lines of communication open. If you don't, it creates more and more distance. And when
Yeah.
people, you normally don't like to hurt people when they're close to you. The further distant you feel from them, the easier it is for you to hurt them. So you have to be mindful of that. Keep those lines of communication open. So it creates that opportunity to talk. And in a time like what we're experiencing right now with all this that's going on in the news, all this inequality, we've got to talk to our children. We've got to hear our children. So books like this set the stage. Like right now I'm working on another one, and it's all about how friendship is so sweet. And it's a little black girl and a little white girl, and it's talking about diversity. It's talking about it in a way that is not intrusive, but it gives the parents or the reader, the counselor, the whoever, the pastor, who's ever reading it to the child, or the children that are reading it together as a group, it gives them the opportunity to have a conversation about something that's hard. It makes it easy to have those tough conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so key. That is so needed from little kids to teenage. When parents come in and they have these teenagers and their teenagers have all these problems, it's because you missed it from 5 to 8. You didn't talk to them. You let them play and run around, and you never listened to them. You never really asked them about their day and heard them.
Right.
Simple questions like you could ask your middle schooler who never wants to talk to their parents. Ask a middle schooler, who did you eat lunch with today? Who said something funny today? See, those aren't. Then you can't get the question. You don't get the answers like, "How was your day?" Fine. You can't
Right.
get because it's an open-ended question, so they have to somewhat answer you.
Mm-hmm.
It creates conversation, and it builds adults who are able to have conversations. We are allowed to feel whatever that feeling is, whether it's right now with the fear of what's going on, sending your husbands out and being afraid that they may not come home to you. That's a true and real feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to have those kinds of conversations are essential. Books like what I'm trying to write gives you the opportunity to have those conversations with your children. You've got to talk. You got to talk to them, and you've got to be able to talk to each other. Husbands and wives got to talk.
Right.
Girlfriends need to talk, and not just, "Girl, I'm doing good." Are you really? What does good look like? Is good at drinking a whole bottle of wine to help you make it through the day? That's not good. Let's talk about that.
No, that's very true.
Yeah. So yeah, open
No,
communication. Sorry, I know I
oh
got excited. I
no.
got in my therapeutic mode for a minute there.
No, I like it. I like it because I think that that's so important, and it's so true that it's communication is at the core of like any relationship or whatever breakdown,
Hmm.
because people don't talk and don't share their feelings. So, and and it's so funny, like you said, with girlfriends or friends talking, and it's like, oh, how are you doing? It's like you said, oh, fine, but meanwhile on the at night they're drinking, like you said, drinking the whole bottle of wine, just trying to
Right,
drink the problems away.
right, or
But
crying.
yes.
When you had someone who was willing to listen. So,
Yep. Yeah.
use your
That's
support systems.
yeah. That's why I always recommend therapy to all my friends and
Absolutely.
anybody who comes into contact and they say something. I'm like, see, I can sleep easy at night because I know that I have a channel to
Right,
release that and to talk to and get somebody else's unbiased feedback, because a lot of times we're wrong. A lot of times I'm like, you know what, you're right. I didn't handle that properly. Let me go back and clean
right,
that up. So, this is great. And I think like what you're doing and just being able to, plant seeds early, it will just help children to grow up to be, better humans, better adult humans, and
right,
they will have those open lines of communication versus holding things in and feeling like, if they say something, they're going to be looked at, a certain way. So I think that's fantastic. So of course now you have to tell everybody where they can get your books. I just got mine in the mail yesterday.
Yay!
So,
Congrats, congrats.
yeah, I was
I
sitting here.
cannot I cannot wait to hear your reviews. And fall in love with those characters. I can't wait. But yes, they are my books are all available on my website, which is www.cblackexpressions.com. In addition, they are available on Amazon as well. If you are in the local Columbus, Phoenix City area, I am preparing for a drive-through book signing on the 27th of June. So if you're here, find me on Facebook, Christie Black-Murrell, or on Instagram at Murrell_Christy. Wait, is that right? Murrell_Christy. Yep. Murrell_Christy_author, or Twitter, author Christy. Yeah, or always on my website. You can get all the updated information. That's www.cblackexpressions.com.
Fantastic. I feel like you just gave us all like a free session as well.
A little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, I am just blown away, from our first conversation. I love your passion and your heart, and your spirit is such a giving one, and just everything that you're giving back to the world is just amazing. We need more people like you, and I know that people will be inspired when they hear this episode. So thank you again for the time and
Of
for
course.
coming to visit us. And like I said, I'm so excited to start my books. I was sitting here going, which one? What should I read? The series first, or should I read the Christmas one? But I'm just like so excited to just dive in and get to know the characters, because I've been wanting a good book for a minute now. So again, Christy, I wish you nothing but, all the success in the world to you and your family.
Thank
And thank
you.
you for joining us and again on the Glow Up Girl podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We'll
Have an
be right
amazing
back.
week.
You too. We'll be right back, guys. Are you ready to start a podcast but don't know where to start? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you why. It's free. There's an easy creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be easily heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So what are you waiting for? Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast, and a big thank you again to Dr. Christie Black-Murrell for sharing her inspiring story with us today. Be sure to visit her website at cblackexpressions.com to find her books and purchase. And thank you all again for all the support that you have given to our podcast. I really appreciate it. I thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time out to listen to our episodes, and then also for those of you who continue to share them with your friends. Find us online at glowupgirl.com. And before I go, I'd like to leave you with a little glowspiration to get you through the week. This week's glowspiration comes from a quote that I found from Bishop T.D. Jakes that I really love. If you can't find your purpose, figure out your passion, for your passion will lead you right into your purpose. So until next time, stay focused, fabulous, and glow up.